Hey everybody, welcome to our favorite frontier, the only Star Trek podcast on the internet that's hosted by me and Nick. Hi Nick.
Hi Alex, how are you?
I'm doing not as good as I was before I watched this episode.
This episode was mildly entertaining, and I use that to the bare minimum of that statement.
Yes, we were talking about the 10th episode of Star Trek The Next Generation called Hide and Q, which is not a pun. Hide and Q. Seek and Q don't sound the same.
Captain's log, stardate 41590.5. Having dropped off Counselor Troy at Starbase G6 for a shuttle visit home, we were fortunately close to the Sigma 3 solar system when its Federation colony transmitted an urgent call for medical help. An accidental explosion has devastated a mining operation there.
Also, there was no hide and seek in this episode.
Yeah, nothing about this title makes a lick of sense.
Actually, I will defend them since hide and seek is a game, and Q attempted to make the crew of the Enterprise play a game.
That's the beginning and end of the sense that this title makes. So, it sucks. It just sucks.
I found the episode extremely boring. I find Q to be agitating, and there really wasn't any depth to the episode until the end. Because at the bare bones of this episode, Q and Picard have a wager to see if Riker would join Q if he was given the power of a god.
Yes.
And any of that, at any capacity, doesn't really happen until the last 10 minutes of the episode.
Yes.
There's a lot of BS in between. Q has to be so flamboyant, and they're trying to make him an interesting character, and it's just not working for me. And then we have to just wait for something to happen, finally, to see what the game really is that he wants to play, which isn't really a game more than it's just a dumb wager. And then we have a very unfulfilling premise, and then it ends like that.
Yeah, I think at one point you said it, which is sort of my main complaint about this episode, is that, my God, does it take forever for the real gist of this episode to kick in?
Mm-hmm.
Because the what they were obviously going for was they wanted to do a absolute power corrupts, absolutely kind of morality story. Which, side note, whatever hack writer decided that he needed to make that clear to have Picard actually say, absolute power corrupts absolutely. We get the premise. You don't need to have your main character say it.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't get to that point until over halfway through the episode.
Mm-hmm.
Over halfway through we spend the first half of the hour watching Worf, admittedly for the first time, do something. But have him walk around and sneak up on goofy pig monster aliens in French military armor.
Even then, he doesn't do anything with them.
He doesn't really do anything, but just the first half of the episode is so long.
And I found the writing to be very bad pace in this episode, especially this episode. I just felt like it was the script was rushed, and the actors couldn't really deal with the script.
Fun fact about the script, the writer used a pseudonym. He was so unhappy with it, with the changes that were made by Gene Roddenberry.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah. So let's start at the beginning here. Now, obviously, from the title of the episode that Q's going to show up.
Mm-hmm.
But Q interrupts because they're going to help a bunch of miners who are in a mine when it collapses or something like that, scientists or whatever. And Q pops in. He's like, "Hey, look at me. I'm in this weird googly ball and finger form. Oh, let me turn into Q." We have our first GIF moment where if you go into your GIF keyboard and type Worf, you'll see the clip of him jumping over the thing. That's a GIF. And then they go down to this island, or this planet, which is classic TNG Season 1, which is just clearly just sand and styrofoam rocks on a soundstage with just a monochromatic background.
Mm-hmm.
And the pig monsters are there. Picard is confused. They drink some lemonade. Tasha Yar is put into timeout.
The penalty box.
Wait, how? If the game is for Riker to choose, why is Tasha Yar put in the penalty box? Because she's not even playing, is it?
Okay, so let's get this straight about the game. There wasn't ever a game.
That's true. There is
He
no
talks
game.
about a game the entire time, and even makes a penalty for the game, and says the game is to survive, and you don't ever see any sort of game being played because there is no point of survival until he gives Riker the power. It was a dumb premise to set it up that way. They should have just put him in danger, gave Riker the power, and just saw how it was, and then talk about how he's going to play a game with Picard to convince Riker to do what he says, or if humanity will prevail. He sets up this whole thing for nothing. It's literally nothing that he talks about.
I agree. Riker should have been given his power much earlier on, because in addition to what you just said, the other thing I noticed is, man, does Riker make that switch to enjoying his omnipotence very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Because the first time he uses it is Wesley gets stabbed, and for some
Wait, let's talk about how amazing that was.
Oh, it was amazing, and that's why that was the motivation that Riker needed to undo everything. And I'm like, Riker, just let it happen, man. This is a good thing. It was actually pretty graphic for Star Trek to have Wesley like look down and grab the spear that was through his chest.
Now, I'll sacrifice Worf to get a dead Wesley.
Yeah,
at this point in the show, I'm sure Worf becomes a great character, but at this point, I would have taken that. I would have taken it.
That's a fair exchange.
And I'm very upset that we didn't.
If I were a Q, I would help you. Anyway, so Riker goes. He basically, I think he goes like, enough of this, and he uses his first.
He throws everyone back up onto the Enterprise.
Throws everyone back up on the Enterprise, but when they teleport back to the Enterprise, he's not like, I just did that. I had to do it for the group. He's standing there with his hands on his hips, with this smug smile on his face, like, yeah, look what I just did, and which is an incredibly fast change of pace to have that.
Again, these writers don't understand these characters.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the actors can't understand the characters because they're not given anything good to work with.
Yeah, and so had they done what you said, which is give Riker the powers automatically, you could have this point where he goes, all right, I'm going to save my crew. Oh, I'm going to save this kid. And slowly have his selfish desires become more and more...
Yeah, Q could have easily tried to slowly convince him that this power is great and he should join him.
Or Q wouldn't even need to tempt him if he just had the power and was given more time to fall in love with it.
The issue with this show, from what I'm gathering, is everything is just black and white. It's one extreme to the other. You don't build up to feeling a certain way. You automatically feel the way you do, or you automatically don't feel it. And that's how the show goes. It's a really skewed dynamic.
Yeah, I'll agree to that. Riker goes from reluctantly, like, I have to use this too. I'm the best. Look at me. Yeah. I'm Captain Riker. I just saved everybody.
Yeah. And Picard finally gets to act like a captain for a brief period of time.
I will say I do like the way Picard handled the situation in this episode, which is, I'm going to sit back and watch this. I don't want to say he wants to have it all. He's like, I'm going to let this all play out. But it's nice to see that he had the trust in his crew to not interfere with Riker, basically. Because at the point where Riker starts, quote unquote, granting their wishes, Picard doesn't even really try to stop. He's just said, yeah, go ahead, make Geordi LaForge see. And I have faith that Geordi LaForge will do the right thing. I have faith that Worf and Data will do the right thing. And that was nice to see out of Captain Picard. Was letting the crew come to the conclusions themselves and trusting that they'll do the right thing.
I do want to step back on that point eventually about the wish granting. But okay. I feel like there was something else I wanted to bring up before we really get into that. Oh, the miners.
Yeah.
Okay, so they go to save the miners, and there are children in the mine, for whatever reason, to the point where they find the dead girl, and Riker's all butthurt because he can't save her life because he promised Picard not to. And I just thought that dynamic was so flamboyantly extreme.
Yes.
And I was just, honestly, how absurd it was. I was just laughing the whole time. I was like, really? They're going to bring it to this point, and he's going to have a little bitch fit about it? It's like, I couldn't save a girl's life because you wouldn't let me.
Yeah, it goes from 0 to 60 real quick.
That's the show is. There's no 30-mile-per-hour zone, move to 40 to 50 to 60. It's literally just like you're there.
So let's go back to that wish granting scene.
All right, when Wesley turned into an adult, I almost pissed myself because the guy looked exactly the same. It was just an overgrown child in a stupid freaking turtleneck that he wears.
Well, I'm going to say that's a very generously casted actor for Wesley.
Yeah, it's like, what the hell?
But yeah, he's still wearing that stupid, idiotic, ugly sweater that Wesley wears.
And Beverly's trying to get him out of there before anything happens, and Riker's like, no, I want to grant your wishes. And then he has to bitch out and be like, oh, I want to do this myself. I don't want to automatically be an adult. It's not like I'm Tom Hanks from Big.
Yeah, well, it was that's true. But I did love the one part where Wesley turns into adult and LaForge just is like, hey, Wesley, not bad.
LaForge made the other comment that made me uncomfortable with Worf, and then when the lady Klingon came, he's like, "Worf, is this your idea of sex?"
Yeah,
Like, who wrote that line?
LaForge is real awkward season 1. We do LaForge does get to see, and then he immediately comes on to Tasha Yar.
Which doesn't
Without
she
any
know
provocation.
about her and Data? Doesn't he know?
I don't know if he knows. Who knows? I don't know. Maybe he knows. I just more like the idea where he looks at her and says, "You're even more beautiful than I imagined." And I'd like to say real quick, LaForge is blind, but he's not blind. He still knows he still knows what she looks like. Yeah. He's sort of like Darth Vader in that it's not his own natural eyes, but he knows what she looks like and can objectively understand beauty through that visor. And we know that because he hits on women for the next 6 seasons.
Like, very badly.
No, not very badly. There's just some comical moments with LaForge falling in love with all sorts of women, whether they're alive or not.
Oh.
Long-time TNG fans know exactly which episode I'm talking about.
Oh. Well.
It's not necrophilia, if that's what you're concerned about.
Yeah, I was a little concerned.
Well, we'll this will be a callback episode. We'll eventually be like, hey, Nick, remember that one time? Eventually we'll get to this. I want to say it's season 4, but I don't know. So yeah, everyone gets their wishes. They all turn it down, except for Wesley. Wesley doesn't turn it down until he sees that everyone else is doing it, and he wants to be cool like them. You don't get to be part of the nobility club, Wesley. And then
I feel like at the end, Q he got in trouble because I feel like his exit was very abrupt and violent.
What was implied was that basically Q was, I don't recall how much of this I know just from being a fucking dork and how much of it is actually conveyed through the show. But I want to say that humanity is being studied by the Q continuum because humans have evolved very rapidly in the last just 300 years, and so the Q's like, we got to keep an eye on these guys, we got to study them. And so John Delancey version of Q has basically been assigned to study the humans, and so this is a test to see how the Q basically made a promise to them and said, hey, I bet I can turn them, and then he failed, and so he got teleported back to King Q to deal with that aftermath.
Now, is he an entity of Q, or is he is it like an individual citizen of the congregation?
He is the Q are called a continuum. They are a continuum of Qs. There's lots of Qs. He's one Q, but the Q as a whole are still called Q. It's like fish and fish. You could have a fish, or you could have a school of fish. They're still fish. he's a Q. They got a continuum of Q. He's a Q.
So it's not like honestly, when I was thinking about Q, I was thinking of it as like, let's say the Christian belief of God. Not to get religious for our audience, but just for me to break this down of what I thought it was. How God in the Christian religion is Jesus. Jesus is a part of God. So I wasn't sure if Q was like a citizen of the reign of Q's, or he was just a humanized version of this giant being of Q.
Think of it more like the Council of Ricks.
Okay, from Rick and Morty.
From Rick and Morty. I think that's probably the closest thing you can think of, except rather than being from infinite dimensions, there's just infinite number of them.
Okay, so it's not like it's just one thing could be in any form and it's always the same thing no matter where it is at all times. Like a Christian God.
I know in a later episode you see another Q talk to this Q. And it's Sean Spicer's dad. Not Sean Spicer. Fuck! It's not Sean Spicer, no. Sorry, Sean Spencer. From Psych.
Not Sean Spicer.
Not Sean Spicer. Sean Spencer. What's his name? Corbin Bernstein?
Oh, Henry Spencer.
Yeah, well, that's Sean Spencer's dad.
Yes.
Henry Spencer, but I couldn't remember his name was Henry. I know his name is Corbin Burns. I don't remember if it's Steen or Sen or Sten or I don't.
Is it really him or is it someone who looks like him?
No, that's the actor who will play another version of Q.
Oh, he's gonna be in the show?
For an episode.
I like him.
For like 3 minutes of an episode.
I was really hoping for Sean Spicer's dad, though.
What would that even be?
Is our audience even going to know who Sean Spicer is by the time this airs?
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure. Well, I don't know, actually.
Because he's the press secretary currently, as of this date that we're talking, but there might not even be a press secretary. You never know.
We never know.
You never know. And that is the beauty of Star Trek. Not a roundabout way of saying, you don't know what the future's going to hold.
That was the takeaway you meant from that.
That's the takeaway I got from that.
I really wasn't clear what the takeaway was. But I guess that's probably a good place as any to end this episode then. Join us next week when we talk about the episode that I'm pulling up on my phone to look at right now, called Haven.
It's called Haven.
Oh, I remember this one. Oh, we're gonna have fun next week.
All right, I can't wait.
So, join us next week where we talk about Haven. But in the meantime, thanks for listening. Check us out on whatever website you are listening to this on, whether it's YouTube, SoundCloud, whatever. Leave us a rate, a comment, a like, a subscribe. All those great things are much appreciated, and we will see you next time.
Goodbye.
Our Favorite Frontier is hosted by Alex Russo and Nick Caladona, edited by Alex Russo, and produced by Nerdy Inc. Be sure to follow us on YouTube to catch all of our videos, as well as like us on Facebook, Twitter, and whatever other social media we have.